Not true. Oh my god, it's so funny. Oh, that's even better. I love it. Special guest is not Sanrixian. Sorry to disappoint. Sure, we're getting ready, obviously. Jojen planes, trains, and automobiles. Jojen! That was way too fucking fast for my drunk ass right now, I think. That's us. That's not what our offices look like. They're much cooler and taller. Be sure to tell your one friend about our show. And join our Facebook group. Actually, join our Twitter. And that's our website. Boom. Sunrise. By the time we get talking, it will be. Oh, boy. Be kind. It's like Ellen. Be courteous. Be all you can be. Disgusting. Sorry about that. I apologize. Yes. Sorry, I just deleted everything except for your video call, which is cool. It's fine. Yeah, sure, whatevs. Sure. Oh my goodness.
Hello,
hey, guys.
everybody. Hey, if you're joining us, we appreciate you. This is a very last minute, hey, off the cuff of our sleeves, I guess is where your cuff would be, right? I mean, can you confirm?
I think your cuff would be on your sleeve. Where does a general put his armies?
In his sleeveys.
Like a cuff.
Just like a cuff. Oh, you can't even see me right now. There we go.
No, I can't.
Now you can see me. But yeah, so Abby and I are here. We are parts, at least half of the podcast that drinks and knows things. Cheers, Abby.
Cheers.
What are you drinking?
Um,
Typical Black River Red Duplin wine.
Black River Red.
And I have Leinenkugel's Snowdrift Vanilla Porter, which I think most of the Midwest to Northeast can appreciate right now. We're still a bit snowdrifted, and this is kind of a prelude episode to Season 6, Episode 9 of Game of Thrones Battle of the Bastards. Abby has seen it.
Mm-hmm. I'm a fan.
This is not our full episode, so we're going to withhold several of our thoughts. And I see Tony in the chat. I see Bridge4 in the chat.
Oh, man,
we are actually live right now. Just Abby and I. This is, again, spur of the moment. Abby had some thoughts that I thought were worth getting out there before we move anywhere, even before we do our main discussion. And,
I mean, he was so pushy about it. I'm in my pajamas, people. It's cool.
I'll drink to that. And I actually don't even really feel that bad because that's what sisters are for, right? I mean...
That's right.
Speaking of sisters, Abby, this episode is all about Jaime Lannister.
It is! Oh my gosh, he's in it. I don't think at all.
Not at all. And neither is
We'll
Cersei.
get to that. It's fine. You're doing great, Luke. We'll get to it.
I'm on fire right now. But the main purpose of this specific live stream chit-chat prelude episode to Battle of the Bastards is Robert E. Lee and Jaime Lannister. Abby, I don't want to take the floor from you anymore, but you have a bit of an essay,
I it's a bit, yes.
and I kind of just want to hand it over to you and let you do your thing.
Okay.
I'll mute myself right now, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, like he said, I am Abby, aka Gertie of House Condescension. Um, I am from the podcast that drinks and knows things. And if you are unfamiliar with our podcast, I'm going to just drop this nugget right here. I am the first time watcher on the wall. This week we watched Battle of the Bastards, and I have intently taken notes, scribbled on coloring books because I was too lazy to go get real sheets of paper to take notes over every single episode up until this very one, season 6, episode 9, but nothing beyond. Full disclosure, I'm a way better drinker than a knower, and a pretty good beer pong player. However, I digress. Um, I have sworn a sacred oath to the small bush in my front yard to keep my sweet summer child self spoiler free and uninfluenced by you masses. I would have done a big old tree, but they were blown away in the hurricane. With this all being said, I have full confidence in the lack of my research and in my blissful ignorance that I am here to prove to you that Jaime Lannister is Robert E. Lee. Robert freaking E. Lee. Okay? Um, okay, maybe I can't prove he's actually the real Robert E. Lee, but I'm going. It might be difficult, but I'm going to just point out that Jaime does seem to be following closely in this historical figure's footsteps.
For context for non-American viewers,
Yes.
can you
So,
give a little bit of background on who Robert E. Lee is?
so Robert E. Lee is a controversial American greatest leader general of militaries. Lots of air quotes going on here. In his right, we are led to believe that he really is a military genius. I know he graduated second in his class from West Point. He was afforded the very best opportunities in military school, and the Union recruited him, went after him to be the general of the Union Army. So this guy was no joke. This was during the American Civil War, 1862, 1861, 1865-ish time period. And definitely there's people who fall on two sides of Robert Lee: military genius or racist asshole. So
Yeah, that's kind of like the two-sided sword, pardon the pun, of being a military leader on the side of
wrong
a
side.
civil war that
Yeah.
no matter how there's a lot of connotation to the American Civil War, and I historical experts will go back and forth, and they have over the years, on what the true nature of the Civil War was. But
It was about
regardless
states'
of that,
rights. It was about shoes. That's why they lost.
regardless of
Sorry.
that, the connotation is there, and when you're the number one guy on the military side of the war, with the politics engaged, you get dragged through the mud. So regardless of his ability to command and be a military leader, he has those connotations thrown upon him. And so I think that's a big part of what your Jaime is Robert E. Lee essay is kind of banking from. So again, I'll mute myself, and I'm just going to talk to the chat. So again, welcome Bridge, welcome Tony, welcome Bran, welcome Sydney Mook.
Oh, hi
good
everybody.
friend. And Abby, the floor is yours again. I'm gonna go ahead and fuck off.
Oh, well, okay. Have fun. So, anyways, I just wondered how closely Jaime Lannister is going to follow in Robert Lee's footsteps. Could Jaime ultimately follow this man's path to a future gracious surrender? That is something that Robert E. Lee did at, I'm going to butcher this name, Appomattox.
Appomattox. Yeah. No,
Appomattox.
you
Okay.
nailed it.
April
Yeah.
9th,
You're doing great, Ab. You're doing great,
1865.
Ab.
Yeah. I know the date. I just Appomattox. There we go. You know that guy. Anyways, he graciously surrendered and to all the union's concessions, or gave all those concessions, or you know what the fuck I'm saying. Have you ever seen Drunk History or whatever that show is?
Dude. So, again,
Sorry, I
gonna
should be on
derail
it.
for a second. Gonna derail.
I should be on it.
Drunk History. You're one of your idols in what you've been referenced to in our show, Drinks and Those Things. Which, yes, for the chat, this is still no spoilers. Past Battle of the Bastards. Appreciate you looking out, but Chloe Ketchum of Girls Gone Canon does Drunk Aswaf, Drunk a song of Ice and Fire history. That is like what she started off as. So like the show Drunk History, she does that specifically for a Song of Ice and Fire history. So
I love it.
yes,
I love it. I love it.
you love her even more. We realize this. Continue.
Yes. Yeah, I heard your boyfriend's
history
coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, her boyfriend will be here Saturday afternoon with us to get
We'll have
drunk.
a talking with him.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
How lucky he is.
Definitely, obviously. Shit. She's Chloe. Damn it. So, anyways, back to Robert E. Lee and Jaime Lannister. I'm not sure if he's going to follow in these footsteps, people. I mean, seriously, I haven't even seen season 7 yet, so fuck off. Sorry. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Next. Oh yeah, here we have some bullet points because everybody likes a good PowerPoint presentation. Click. Slide number 1. Both of them were born into influential families. They both had money. Robert E. Lee kind of took a tank when his dad had some issues that he kind of ran away from, and it was a big thing. But regardless, they started out with money, rubbing elbows with the Washingtons, and they both have fathers that were fierce, battle-tested men. Robert Lee's father, his name or nickname, what he was commonly referred to was Light Horse Harry. He was an American patriot and politician, and he got this name from his great works with horses. They were both afforded the best military training and schooling available to them, and became a serious powerhouse. And those who opposed them saw them as not like a huge threat, like such a big threat that we asked them to join our side. Come be our general, please. We want you. But anyways, so there's some,
I want you to want me.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So just going down my notes here. Sorry, peeps. Oh, here we go. You ready for this one? This is where it starts getting a little interesting. Jaime, I feel like, I don't know if he would have been a Kingsguard forever. I don't think his father seemed to really want him to renounce his titles. I'm pretty sure there was a whole big episode about him renouncing his, so he go back to Casterly the Rock and be lord of that. But Jaime moves to Cersei. He stays with Cersei. It's very strange that Robert E. Lee, the general of the Confederate Army, moves to his wife, Mary Ann Randolph Curtis Lees, who is the granddaughter of Martha Washington, by the way, their house at Arlington. That is not General Lee's house. I don't know if, again, American context here. Arlington is our big national cemetery for soldiers, military. It's where the Tomb of the Unknown is. Land has now all been reclaimed, but that is where um, Robert E. Lee lived. But that was his wife's house. So Jaime's at his wife's house or his sister's house, and Robert E. Lee's at his wife's house. So, hey, I mean, who's wearing the pants around here? Who knows? Next. I'm real sorry about this, folks. Here we go. They both have this compelling, like honor bound, just pride and honor bound to champion the wrong side. That's the best, most eloquent way I can put it. They are championing the wrong side. And this is where it gets a little dicey for me. So, Luke, you're going to unmute yourself for a minute. But as I get through my point here, as for me in the show right now, I see this good inside of Jaime. I have this human element that almost, it really does. It makes me forget or forgive, whatever you want to say, the acts that on his part are absolutely horrendous. I am so wishing, like right now, I can feel it. Like I want this redemption arc for Jaime, and I think he's been on it. Like in the show, I like Jaime. I see him with Brienne, and I'm like, gosh, they'd be so. If he could just get away from Cersei, he'd be so great. But him getting away from Cersei does not discount the fact that he pushed a little boy out of a window to murder him. He brutally murders his cousin. I mean, like, these are terrible, terrible acts. And he is on the side of Cersei. He is on the side of the Lannister family. In the same way, there's questions of Robert E. Lee, and there is very much this culture or feeling of him being revered. He was a great general. He was a decent person. Other than the fact that, he was a Confederate, like all these things. And I just see it very similarly. It's so easy to forget as we watch the show that Jaime has done, even, I'm not going to put like the king slaying, because kind of I don't care about that. I think he's justified. Let's get some Raylan Gibbons up in here. Justified. So, sorry, I had to. But as far as that, like,
that
that's
was the whole
aside.
reason we've done this episode, so you could do that.
Get my Raylan Gibbons.
Do it one more time.
I was justified.
I was justified.
Justified. So, but push, the king slaying aside, there are other just terrible acts. Like, even if it's just those two, in my mind, you pushed a little boy. And I get that Bran, we are seeing him as more of an adult, I guess, or he's not really. But, he's a three-eyed raven. He's a force to be reckoned with within his own right. But as a little boy, he was pushed out of a window, like, to be murdered. And that's just unforgivable in my book. And we're going to have a lot of people here, maybe. We'll see. We're trying to keep this light. But Robert E. Lee also...
We've also been called out, like, there's no way they're going to stay on topic. So...
It's okay.
With just Abby and I here, yeah.
We'll see.
We'll try.
I'm great under pressure. Don't challenge me.
Justified.
Totally justified. So, with Robert E. Lee, okay, I already got to this part, but people revere him as this great man who fought for slavery. And before we get to but the Civil War wasn't about slavery. All right, fine. States' rights, shoes, whatever, equal representation, all sorts of stuff. I think that was kind of the Revolutionary War, representation, taxation. Yeah, whatevs. Sorry, Mr. Seasoner. It's fine.
Tea
okay?
parties, all that.
In Boston. Yeah, whatevs. Okay.
Boston. So they're going to win the Super Bowl. It's fine. Fuck Kansas City.
What else is new? So, at the end of the day, the reason why it makes me feel like these guys parallel each other is we, at least I, as a viewer, have these. I don't even know what I want to say towards Jamie. I have such conflicting views. I can respect the man that I see him that he could be, and then I have to remember the man that he was. In the same way, I respect, I guess, the military genius that Robert E. Lee was, but I also have to remember at the same time, regardless of his personal motives, he fought for the side that decided it was right to own another human. And I'm sorry, Danny says, not cool. Not cool.
So there was a specific or a show reference that you wanted me to go ahead and read for this conversation.
Are you sure? No. Not
No?
yet, I don't think.
No, not yet.
Not yet. I think it comes
Okay.
in a little minute.
No, that's fine. No,
yeah.
you've absolutely touched on.
It's just
you've touched on a lot of the core of.
It's hard to talk about because I'm not trying to be like, oh, I don't want to pick a side or I don't want to have views, but I don't want to offend somebody, and I'm trying to present it in a way that I can see.
It's a struggle. There is no doubt that Jaime is a difficult character to love, but at the same time,
he difficult to hate.
All of the reasons to want to give him a chance.
Yes,
you are not wrong on this. Like, again,
yes.
Anyone that's just tuning in right now, this is Abby's first take, just pre-chat before we actually do our regular episode of Battle of the Bastards, season 6, episode 9, which Jaime isn't even in. This was just Abby watching that episode, and
I think we get to why. Yeah.
And she had some thoughts looking at this, because I think it's giving more precedence for big battles and commandership in the realm of Game of Thrones, which is reasonable because Jaime is put on this pedestal a bit of being one of those commanders, and she doesn't know where he's going to go from here, and that's, for season 7, and that's fine. And the only time we've really seen Jaime in battle is the Battle of the Whispering Woods, where he got his ass captured to by Robb. I mean, he got captured.
And I think Catelyn slaps him too.
Yeah, no, it ends with a bitch slap. I mean, like,
dude, awesome.
And I love Catelyn Stark. I am not calling Catelyn Stark a bitch. It was just, he got bitch slapped. I'm defending
like a motherfucker
because people hate Catelyn, and I do not. I'm a Catelyn supporter, so that
I'm a Catelyn fan.
But
sorry, Mama's got to stick together. No mom hate from me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right. Mama Wolf. Mama.
That's right.
But I think once you came to me, you were like, this whole thing started with Jaime Lannister has some mega huge similarities to Robert E. Lee. And
yes,
I saw this when I was at work this afternoon, and I was like, okay, probably, that's cool, whatever, like, write it up, we'll
talk.
We'll put it up as a post on the episode, or on the website, if you want to make a video about it, like, that's fine. And then I was working on some things tonight, which didn't get finished yet, but that's okay. And Abby started talking to me about this, and the more she was kind of talking about who Robert E. Lee was, and I've got the historical context, but I haven't dug into it too deep, and everything that she was saying, they're very compelling and similar historical narratives that they lived through. Like it's one thing to be that character. It's another thing to live through that.
Yes.
And understand the character development that goes into that. It's one thing to be that person. It's another thing to live through being that person.
To be so... The word I kept coming across, and Luke was like, I was like, I've done so much research, and he's like, wait, what? And I'm like, no. On on the Civil War side, not on the Robert E. Lee side, not the Jaime Lannister
Let's
side.
talk about real history.
Yeah, I was like, I just stayed away from that. And a couple times I'd be like, Luke, I need that quote from Jaime when he's like something and he's talking to Brienne. He's like, actually, he's talking to Catelyn, but okay. And I'm like, great, that one. That's the one I need.
Still stands. The sentiment
Yes.
stands.
So, but the thing I kept seeing, and I was like, what did people think of Robert E. Lee? What did his troops think of him? He was a decent person who liked to have his feet tickled by his 9 fucking kids. Or 7. I don't really remember. I don't remember if he's one of 9 or one of 7. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of fucking kids. He had a lot of kids. And was just, he was very strict. He was very approachable, apparently. Took complaints from any level of soldier. And I mean, you did what was right. He was very old school. Very, very starkly different from his counterpart, Ulysses S. Grant. But that's a different day, different podcast, show. Drunk History, if you want to get a hold of me, I can do one of those too. Next. But
and just know that after the show is done, that might be all we do. We might just do, hey, here's a story from ASWAF. We're just gonna drunk chat about it.
Perfect.
That might be easier than we have a lot of options.
Yes. But that was one of the biggest like words that I just kept seeing repeated about him. He was so decent. And I feel that about Jaime. I see him being decent, especially in regards to Bronn, Pod, Brienne, his brother. Like, there are so many decent moments with Jaime that it's hard to ignore that part of him. It is part of him. Well, let's get on to like the real big kickers here. They both have great facial hair. Number 1. Number 2, they have majestic as fuck horses. Okay. Luke told me that one of them, Jaime said, I don't know, has some internal dialogue. Like I said, my research is on point with this, guys. Really researched. Glory, something. Robert Lee's horse, his name's Traveler. Knew that in 2nd grade. Will never forget it to the day I die. I hope I'm asked for it on Jeopardy one day. And lastly, they look fantastic in their uniforms. Duh. Same footsteps. Gotta be the same guy. So the real reason that this all came about really does relate to the show Battle of the Bastards today. I'm not going to go into huge detail here because I'm sure I will try to not also go into huge detail on the podcast. Good luck with keeping me reined in there. But as I'm watching this, Jon Snow, it's where Jon Snow's like being trampled. Is that like he's being like suffocated? He's just, there's no air. He's in the middle of what I would call a pit. There's bodies stacked. And I had this like overwhelming, sickening feeling or realization of like the horrors of war. And immediately I just had this memory of literally a high school history class where I learned about a Civil War battle called the Battle of Crater. It was part of the Siege of Petersburg during the Civil War. And basically, the Union troops really messed up. They dug a huge tunnel underneath the South Confederate line, blew it up, and then ran into the tunnel. Not tunnel, but it was like a crater at this point. Crater, Battle of Crater. They ran into the crater, and they all just get trapped in there. They can't get out. There were no ladders, and it was described as shooting fish in a barrel. They suffered mass casualties. Tons of people were just stepped on and killed. Like, and I remember my teacher, his name is Mr. Seasoner, probably the best history teacher in the world. He's awesome. But he just brought it alive in a way that I was like, that is so horrific. And if you've ever been in a high school class where you've actually had history like hit you like that, like the sacrifices people have made to get you to where you are and humanity is today. Like that, it was intense. And I'm watching this through my TV screen, watching John being like, this is 10 times more horrific. So for the show, I decided I want to make sure my facts about this battle are correct. And I know if it's at Antietam or fucking Gettysburg or where the hell this place. I just know there was a big hole and a bunch of people were in it and they were shooting them and it was bad. So I did a little research and this quote came out. And this is what I heard. It says, "It's always the good men who do the most harm in the world." And for some reason, because I'm on a Game of Thrones kick too, I just immediately thought of Jaime. And I was like, holy shit, it really Jaime could do that. The carnage he could leave in his wake fighting Cersei, fighting his family's war. He has the skills, he has the number, he has the manpower. He can inflict so much damage on Westeros for just his blind love of Cersei and family, regardless of its cost. So the quote is actually from Henry Adams speaking about Robert E. Lee, a good man who, like Jaime, lets his love of Virginia be the only one deciding factor of his involvement in a war that is about so much more. And that's where this whole kind of thought of Jaime is Robert E. Lee. They both have this irreversible mark on their name, but seem unwavered in their choices. We have the Kingslayer. We have the man who chose to secede over freeing slaves. They also both were pretty poignantly asked about being oath breakers or traitors. And Robert E. Lee says, "A traitor, I swore an oath to my native state to defend against all invaders. How could I leave my beloved Virginia? It was not I, the traitor."
So, just to expound upon that a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, and I am no expert on states' rights or Civil War history at all. I
Me
have
neither.
a minor in history. I love history, and I think, and I love fantasy, and I think that's a big reason why A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones speaks so loud to me. You know, it's because it treats those topics so delicately, and it makes them all important. It
Yes.
you can dig deeper. You can, and it does matter. You know, it's not so the story is not so thin that you can only focus on the
Black and white.
plots at
Yeah.
hand that
Mm-hmm.
you can miss out on things if you don't know the history. I think there are certain things that can happen in the story that if you don't know a little bit of the history, when they happen, you're gonna feel like, well, what the fuck? Like, where did that come from? But if you know any or more of the history, it's gonna be the most natural thing that could happen, and not that, oh, reading all of A World of Ice and Fire or Fire and Blood is going to give you all the answers, but it gives context on where certain things coming into play. And I can't wait until, Abby, you have the chance to read those.
I
You're
know.
getting close. You're getting
I know.
close.
So close.
But
And
I do think history
8 weeks.
is something that George R. Martin takes very seriously, and he implements it in the
Mhm.
stories. And I think the show has done a good job for overall. As an average, they've done a good job at implementing history where it's been needed.
Yes.
And the references that you've pulled have been very apt and well chosen for sure.
Well, and I also think like I don't necessarily again, I'm limited on research or what I can do, but it doesn't seem to me that George R. R. Martin is pulling from necessarily American history. Like I feel like we're definitely European middle
And
age. Like
also, just another thing that we're definitely gonna talk about. This isn't this episode has not happened in the books.
okay.
We are
So
everything that we're seeing, all of the scenes that we see here beyond books.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're looking at show writers entirely
Versus
here.
right.
So,
So
but yes, I want to again expand upon what you're saying with European history, which is more dense. There's
yes.
more to pull from.
Yes.
The two, and I know we're gonna touch on this on Saturday when we do our regular episode, and I don't want to completely take away from what we can talk about then, but the two battles that they really talk about are the Battle of Cannae, which is when Hannibal, you know Hannibal?
Hannibal Lecter? Hannibal,
No,
Missouri?
Hannibal.
That's the only Hannibals I know. I'm out.
Carthaginian Hannibal Barca.
Carthage, Illinois?
I know, right?
I'm confused.
This is not working out for you, but no, Hannibal
Plain
Barca,
Painted.
who was one of the leaders, kings. The title was tricky. Of Carthage going against Rome in the Punic Wars. They did the shield entrapment that we see.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
the
The
enclosing
round.
in and stabbing, and basically just you're surrounded. A true 360-degree pincer move,
Yes.
and eliminate the enemy thing. The
So
other
I
battle
literally
go
have
ahead.
in my notes just to I'm not exactly sure about the circle shield thing. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, because that to me is like new or just something I haven't heard of. I definitely very much have focused in on American history. I don't know why. I think honestly, my teachers that taught it made it more exciting than my other ones.
Yeah,
It's really not.
and that's fair. And I've actually been more interested in big history, in world history. That's always, and I think maybe that's why I have gravitated more towards A Song of Ice and Fire, like the world book. Like that's
Right.
because I like to know the big picture, like where are all of the pieces coming in,
Yes.
and starting from there. I would rather know the starting points and figure out where it gets to from there, as opposed to I'm not a politics guy. I'm a big history guy. Like to me,
To
that's
fourth
kind of a
grade
delineation.
Missouri history.
I I got third in my class in knowing states and capitals, behind Brian Vogley and Julie Buckheit.
Fucking assholes.
I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
Well, they both got 100%, and I missed one. So I don't remember which one it was.
Damn it, Vermont.
God, Montpelier. No, that's an easy one.
That's a good commercial. That's why it's easy.
But what the fuck were we just talking about?
You were talking about the World Book and enjoying like the histories of the big histories, where I really honestly think it's the teachers and the presenters I've had in my life who just made the American history for me more exciting. Honestly, it was just better teacher versus get through taking notes. Luke disagrees.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, no. So the other big battle that again we're gonna talk about on Saturday when we do our regular episode, that is referenced in this episode, that I'm even more particular to, is the Battle of Agincourt. It's one of the battles in the 100 Years' War between France and England.
Which wasn't even a fucking 100 years.
It was on and off for like 80 something.
87.
Years.
Yeah, ridiculous. You couldn't have called it
reasonable. Let's not complain about that.
I'm just teasing. See, I listened to something.
So you were talking earlier, and I don't know if you actually mentioned it. To me, you were talking about how let's open this door a bit. Abby has done numerous book reports, biographies on Robert E. Lee.
I have.
Stonewall Jackson has been something that I've grown up next to.
Stonewall is not Robert E. Lee, though.
That's Stonewall Jackson.
Don't shoot. They see the whites of their eyes.
No, I know. So, like, I remember you learning about that and hearing about it. and Robert E. Lee right
He
alongside
was my
that. I mean,
yes,
it was always the
yeah,
combination, right? Because that was like the
and Claire Barton,
1-2 punch.
Yeah, when I had to do the female ones, always Claire Barton.
So, like, right, like that.
Yep,
Growing up, you very much focused on the Civil
mhm,
War. Like that was what
it did.
interested you, and it
It
kept you
definitely did.
interested, which I fully supported because as your younger brother that read a lot, and knowing that you didn't, I was excited that you were excited about learning these
Anything.
things, and you'll see that in our shows at times. Like I translate for Abby sometimes. I don't mean to cut her off. I'm more just trying to help her
Get to the spot.
get to the spot. I'm getting to the Abby spot, the Gertie. I'm trying to touch to the Gertie, if you will.
Yep.
And there are times where I don't know. Maybe this is just like a Luke and Abby hanging out stream. Like that. Maybe that's what this is. But um, like growing up, you and our dad, who is a big history buff. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
basically
Oh, yeah.
is a teacher that just didn't actually teach. Had all of the college credits to do so, and just chose
I
not to. Basically,
literally sent him and to any people who are over in England, Scotland, Ireland, have you seen They Shall Not Grow Old? I just sent him like the trailer for it this morning at like 5:45 a.m. Was like, "Dad, we have to go see this movie." I live 17 hours away. Anyways, my dad and I really did bond over the fascination almost with the Civil War. Like the fact that a country can literally tear itself apart and fight against each other, brother on brother, picking sides. It's messy, it's dirty, and I think I really did. I feel so. I don't even want to put this on air, but I really did have a fascination with Robert E. Lee. Like he was the best general. He was the number one guy, and he lost. Like he lost. He didn't have the manpower. He didn't have supplies. He didn't have all these things,
he
but
didn't
he was
have
still the
the
best.
foreign backing that the
No,
North ended up having later on as well.
in the economy, he didn't have, just
Everything was going
basic.
against him. I mean, by the end of it,
There was, I mean, he did need to graciously, and he was wrong. Like, here's my thing: he was on the wrong side of this. But it just always fascinated me that this man who is revered as the best, this is the best guy you can get, lost because he chose the wrong moral code. And I think that's why
or
I
just
like.
like, or even not even moral code. Like you could potentially argue again. We're not going to
Yes.
get too deep into this. He was just following his
And
orders and doing his job.
he is
Like
quoted multiple times saying it wasn't about slavery for me. It was about being true to Virginia. It was about states' rights. It was about
states'
siding with
rights.
my state. It was about, and that's his words. Like now, I kind of don't care because at the end of the day, the society, like it doesn't matter. But he was the best, and his honor kept him on the side of the losing side, which I feel like is happening to Jaime. Jaime could be the best, or he was the best swordsman, and I get that he has one hand now, but he is still a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I think if he gives a rallying speech, it's going to go over much better than what's his name, Feathers, Mance Tyrell. You know him,
Mace, yeah,
Mace.
Mace,
Yeah, Mace, not Mance. Sorry, Mance. That was rude. I
yeah. No,
apologize.
and what again? I once you kind of showed me a few of the comparisons, I saw them right away. Like it's being put in a spot that you are kind of groomed to be in.
Mhm.
Jaime Lannister is Robert E.
And
Lee is the topic.
yeah,
If you've just joined, the discussion we're having is our first time watcher of Game of Thrones, Abby. Wave your hand. Hi. Has watched Battle of the Bastards, which Jaime Lannister is not in
That's what I was thinking
at
about, though.
all, and neither is Cersei. But
And
it's a
neither is
it's a
Robert E. Lee, and he
and
should be.
you
And
know
Traveler
I
should be too.
I thought Traveler might have been, but
He could have.
um, not confirmed.
There's a
There
lot of
were a
horses.
lot of horses.
Oh my god.
There were actually
I
80 horses.
just 80. Oh my, the CGI then,
Yeah,
it
and
looks
just
so
know,
good.
hey
Sorry.
Abby,
It looks
just
so
know,
good.
I'm hosting this episode,
Mhm.
so keep that number 80 in your pocket for trivia. I'm not gonna say that's gonna be the question, but it might be the question,
I
and
gotta,
this
yeah.
might be a bonus for anyone watching right now.
Bonus
Um,
round.
yeah, there were 80 horses used, and there was a 90 horse stable built for it.
All right.
But
Okay, so babies.
yeah, no, like this is one of the more impressive episodes in general, and the thing that I was getting to earlier about Abby and our father, because again, Abby, Benji, and I are all siblings. We grew up with the same dad, who is incredibly inquisitive and incredibly
Kind.
kind and knowledgeable. He's a sharer. He likes other people to know the things that he knows. And so Abby got the Civil War connection with our dad, and the thing that I connected more with on our dad was the big history
Hmm.
and the fantasy. Like that's like the you ready for this, Abby? Are you ready? Buckle up. King Arthur and the Knights of Justice.
Damn it. I was so pissed off today. My my son's like, I really like knights, Mom. And I'm like, dude, I got the coolest show for you. Just wait. Check it.
Not only Mike the Knight, which is a good show.
Yeah, what
If you
a
have kids
Knight the
four,
Knight's cool.
5, 6, and under,
Yeah,
Mike
Mike
the
Knight's
Knight.
cool.
It's a good show.
So
But
type
there's
in
a better option.
King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It's like a movie and some other bullshit. And I'm like, no,
It
I
was
want the
always on
cartoon.
Sunday mornings before we went to
I'm
church.
like, no, I want the table and the what the hell? And then I just finally had to give up. And I'm like, Luke, I need you immediately. What is the King Arthur show? And he's like, well, of course, that would be King Arthur's and the Knights of Justice. And I was like, oh, bullshit. Okay,
Which
fine.
is basically King Arthur as a He-Man kind of
It's
show.
awesome.
But it's
Awesome.
awesome. I
Yep.
need to start watching it again.
Dude, my son watched it for probably more time than pediatricians recommend. But what else?
Any final thoughts on because this whole thing is set up on Jaime Lannister. Do you want me to read the Jaime and cat quote?
No, so what I had for that was their feelings on being a traitor or themselves being a traitor. And we see that Robert E. Lee is like, I wasn't a traitor. I to Virginia, a traitor, not I, kind of Yoda like. But Jaime, and it isn't a long cat quote, but he basically says, defend the king, obey the king, obey your father, protect the innocent, defend the weak. But what if your father despises the king? What if the king massacres the innocent? It's too much. No matter what you do, you're forsaking one vow for another. I feel it's very, maybe not the exact same thing, but along those same lines. I have forsaken my country for my state, that I vowed to my state, I vowed to my country. And Robert E. Lee was definitely in like the Army Corps of Engineers. I know this because about 20 miles up the road, he built the fort that is still there today.
Who built the fort?
No one, no one. Sorry, that's an inside joke. Who built the ark?
I'll
Noah. Thank you. So I think they both feel like they had no choice. I would agree with Jaime making his choice against the Kingslayer. I'll put it down here. I think he made the best choice. I also think that they both struggle with questioning their own morals or questioning their decisions, questioning, am I making the right choice? I think it's easy to see that when Jaime speaks to Brienne, and we see in a letter that Robert E. Lee writes to his wife, he's talking about, I want you to go out and do good things. That's what living is all about. That's not the actual quote. I'm just giving you the reference around it. So he's talking about doing good things, and he wants his wife to do this. He wants to pursue these things. And he ends his letter with, I want to be a good person and I want to live a good life. But right now, and this is the quote, I am filled with confusion and despair about his current situation, about his decisions. And I think we see that in Jaime. Um, my last and final thought, kind of, this is my second last final thought, is,
We're counting down here.
yep, my second last final thought is that Jaime, Luke told me it was called the White Book. Per the show, we see that Jaime has in there like Sir Jaime Lannister,
Killed his king. Like that's kind
Kingsguard.
of it. Like I don't know if it's really even touched on in the show. Like it's really not even touched on in the show. It's more of a book thing.
So I know it's like mentioned once. And in my limited understanding,
The
that's
only
it.
time it's mentioned in the show is when
Brienne is.
Cersei comes in there and she
I think
again
Brienne is given the sword. I don't really know, honestly. I know they're
okay.
in the room.
I think Cersei comes in and bangs him in that
Okay.
room, and
Yeah.
he kind of is again. I'm slightly confusing the book here a bit, but yeah, it's very much left out of the show in general.
So, but in my opinion or view of Jaime, he is, oh man, the Kingsguard, the head of the Kingsguard. Is that the right head or lead or top notch?
Lord Commander of the Kingsguard.
Lord Commander. There we go. So he's Lord Commander and he's in charge of filling in these great proclamations of good deeds. Yet he has not filled in anything for himself. In the same way that Robert E. Lee is one of the only US generals, presidents, men of significance that left no memoir. There's nothing. There's no diary. There's some letters that they've collected between him and his son or him and his wife in correspondence, but there's no personal memoir of his feelings and thoughts day to day of his life and decisions. I think that just speaks volumes about how they see themselves or how they see their significance. Um, yeah, so that's my second last final thought.
Good.
Thank you.
No, it's I was distracted by the chat. I missed your last point. I'm
Um,
sorry.
it's just that neither of them wrote
I'm
anything
just
down.
embarrassing. Whoa, I'm
What?
sorry. What was it?
Oh, that neither of them wrote anything down, like of they don't
Right,
take
yeah.
their personal accomplishments. They don't.
They're not worried about their own self esteem.
Mm-mm.
From what we see in the show, that is not a focus of Jaime Lannister. He is not wanting other people to know of his great deeds. He literally isn't, because when he talks to Brienne, she's the only person that we know that has seen the true Jaime, I think.
Right.
Like that's the only time, and he was not drunk, but out of his wits. He
Mm,
was not himself when he passed out in the tubs at Harrenhal,
yeah.
and he was able to tell her some truth that literally nobody else knows.
Right.
Especially for show canon, she's the only one that knows the goodness of Jaime Lannister,
Yeah.
and
Or recognizes it, or like chooses
she,
to even believe it could be there.
she's the only one that knows. And it's also taken her some time to figure that out, that she believes it too, that he
Yeah.
wasn't just spinning her some bullshit, right? I mean, he has nothing to lose, but
No.
she has everything to Brienne has every reason to disbelieve what he's saying, but he also kind of showed her through experience being around him that he's not the most awful. He's not Ramsay, and
That's the thing. He's not Ramsay.
he's not an awful, awful, despicable person. He's a person that's been forced to make some very difficult choices.
It's almost like you're able to reason with him. You can reason with Jaime. I mean, not that he could totally go a little bit Tywin on you. And Tywin also isn't even Ramsay, I don't think. Or Joffrey. There's
Even just last episode when we saw Jaime dealing with
Edmure.
Edmure.
Yeah,
But it still seems like Jaime's playing the part.
he's in control.
He's
This
in
is
control.
not, yes.
And he knows what's going to be effective.
Yep.
But it's different than just doing ahead of time.
That's where your source of joy and fulfillment come from. He's using Edmure to get something. He's using him to get to another step so he can go back home. Whereas Joffrey would just torture and kill Edmure because that gave him pleasure and joy.
Yeah.
Now, Ramsay might torture and kill him to get to the next step, but it would also satisfy him in some way too. I don't know. It's just this level of psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, Jaime, I don't think anyone's going to call Jaime a psychopath or a sociopath or any of. He knows what he's doing, and he's a normal human. Like, again, sorry to all of the sociopaths out there.
You kind of suck.
I'm not gonna judge. I mean, we all have our places in the world, and we can't choose the hands that we're dealt.
Tomorrow, please find the nearest serial killer. Oh my god.
All right, we should probably start wrapping this up.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, finalize this and put a stamp on it.
All right, so here's my final thought. Now, I have thought about this literally all day. I started my Ken Burns, I think it was like episode 4 or 5.
Ken Burns, so good. So good.
In the year of 1864, because I knew this is when the battle happened. And I'm starting to watch, and I'm like, oh my god, it's kind of like Jaime Lannister. Oh my god, I wonder what else Robert E. I mean, they both had this kind of fathers and blah, 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 because of just background knowledge that I had, because every single biographical book report I did in grade school and high school was on him. But, so I was like, this is kind of crazy. So all day I've been thinking about this, and I've been grabbing quotes from Robert E. Lee and quotes that people have said about Robert E. Lee and trying to gauge how people, the general feeling of him were. And then I came across this, and I just think this wraps it up into a nice little bow. So here it goes. This is a quote from Robert E. Lee. All I ever wanted was a Virginia farm. No end of cream and fresh butter and fried chicken. Not one chicken, not two, but unlimited fried chicken. And I realized my day had been wasted because he's fucking Sandor Clegane. The fucking end.
Yeah. Literally all of the research that you did was proven wrong with a single quote that goes back to season 4, episode 1.
Just wants all the chicken. I'm going to have to eat.
I'm going to have to eat every fucking chicken in this place.
I literally was so disheartened when I read this. I was like, hours of my time thinking wasted.
Well, like Robert E. Lee probably is a lot like Jaime Lannister.
Maybe.
And then you see that one quote, and you're like, no, 1,000% Sandor Clegane.
Never mind.
You know,
Right trash.
I sure did try. I sure did.
And this is why I started this with the PSA of I'm a first-time watcher, so nothing I say can be held against me. Okay?
That's
Just saying.
true. That's true. And to learn more about Abby being a first time watcher, please do join us Saturday afternoon. This is January 25th now. It wasn't when we started. But
It was.
for you, not for me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But
Yeah.
January 26th, sometime in the afternoon, let's go ahead and say 1 p.m. Central Standard Time ish. We will be live doing Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. But until then, you can just wait for us. And until then,
As always, I still don't know, so I'll just drink.
and as always, stay imaginary.